Oh, it's savage. Yeah, I could have done with another.
Yeah.
I could have done with another 2 weeks, like you know.
How long were you there for?
We were 2.5 weeks in total. We went to Morocco for 4 days, and then 3 of the Greek islands for kind of around like 4 or 5 days each. So it was
Okay,
nice now, to be
yeah.
fair. But you always want more. Like you're always like, oh, another week, another 2 weeks. I actually had a similar experience in Morocco. I was training and I was doing like bench, and I was just training on my own. I was like, I don't need a spot, it's fine. And then some guy came over and he was just like, yeah, bro, keep going. And he was like holding the bar up and down. I was like, stop, please. It's kind of a subtle thing, and you can only feel it when you do it, because it's like basically like what tends to happen is when people do a normal, like when most powerlifters, even like good powerlifters, when they do bench press, squeaky chairs, it's like up and then in a curve, kind of like that, you know.
Okay.
So you're coming up and then back. So that's the way most people do
Yeah.
it. But essentially, what you can do is just squeeze a bit more out of your bench if you change that bar path slightly. Because what happens is, if you come off your chest, that bar is still like way in front. What is up? It's Wednesday, the 24th of December. December. I think I had Christmas Eve in my mind, the 24th of July, I believe. And I am starting up, the vlog again. Same story with Paddy. We're just gonna do, a bit, not too much, put too much pressure on ourselves. It's kind of one of the reasons that we haven't been consistent in the past, is like, I like things to be perfect when I do them, and I worry too much about kind of, I have to have my camera and it has to be well edited and all that sort of stuff, and just doesn't really matter, does it? It's more important to get stuff out to you. So yeah, that's the crack. I'm going to be doing a bit of vlogging. Don't worry about that for now. I'm currently on my way to BJJ, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, for those of you who don't know what that is. It's essentially a type of grappling where you wear a gi, one of those big white pajamas things, and you fight with each other on the floor. Very simple. but yeah, that's something that both Paddy and I are kind of big into at the moment. Like, as of 2019, both of us have been doing it consistently for the last 6-7 months, so it takes up probably like most of our training time, and it's kind of our main training goal, both of us, which we kind of came to independently. Like, when I started, I hadn't even realized that he was after starting and was going continuously, so yeah, it's going well. And anyway, basically what I'm going to show you now here are some clips of my holiday, just a couple of clips that were on my phone, just to kind of explain, where I've been for the past few weeks, and then I'm going to show you some training from this week. Alrighty guys, what is up? This is me doing some diving off a boat in Santorini. This was my better entry. Boom. Feet first. That wasn't too bad. But yeah, as you can probably tell, I've been away for the last few weeks. You can tell based on the fact that I'm diving into blue water and nice weather, and I'm from Ireland, not the fact that I have a nice tan or anything. But yeah, here's some more clips from Santorini. These are just random bits and pieces from my phone. Like, I didn't take them deliberately to put them into a blog. They were just kind of for my Instagram story and stuff. This was me doing a little bit of training. So I was doing some sprints. I always train when I'm on holidays. I really enjoy training, the process of it. It's like psychological therapy to some degree, for all of us. So I really like training, and I like to get it done regardless of where I am. So there's me running moderately quickly, and then here was the sunset tour, or sunset boat trip with Sunset Ia, and this was absolutely beautiful in Santorini. And then there was also this bookshop, which was absolutely amazing. They literally had everything possible. I had to buy something. I just bought Devils by Dostoevsky. So yeah, and then I was messing around in the shop, as you'll see in a moment.
What are you looking for? Sorry. You have any cream fingers? Any cream fingers in the hair top? Any cream fingers? Muscles, do you have any cream fingers?
Muscles, do you have any cream fingers? What about you? You'll only get it if you kind of have relatives from Northern Ireland, or you're from Northern Ireland. But anyway, here we are. We're back in Ireland. We're doing some training. So this day was my first day back in the gym, doing a little bit of lower body stuff. And pretty easy overall, pretty easy session. I think there's 116 kilos in the bar here, the safety bar. And yeah, just like nice controlled pause squats, a little bit of accommodating resistance to, just reduce that resistance a touch in that bottom position.
almost has a similar effect to the effect that you would get from having SBD knee sleeves on, which I normally wear, but I kind of just stopped wearing. So the use of accommodating resistance bands in this case, it's just nice to just take off that little bit of resistance at the end, allow me to really stay in control, and also allows me to kind of train without any sort of knee pain, because I get a little bit of knee pain at the bottom of my squats when I'm in deep knee flexion. So I can kind of reduce the inertia, you know, the amount that weight wants to come down and crush me once it gets moving. You can only see it's acting in a small portion of the range of motion. So there you go. They were some squats. And then after that, I moved on to some leg pressing. So the video actually looks quite poor because it's focusing on the the glute ham raise or 45-degree hip extension that's in front of me. But as you'll see, I kind of put a bit of a seatbelt on the leg press. That's something that I use myself. I didn't set it up properly, so it's not helping me as much as it could, but ultimately what you want here is that the seatbelt is going to help you to stay on the bench and not slide up on the seat rather, because essentially that weight wants to slide you up the seat. So if you can have some sort of restraint, that can stop that from happening. And that's particularly the case when you have any sort of leg press where you're lying back quite a bit and the resistance is pushing back against you. So yeah, nothing to write home about here, just like pretty slow and controlled reps, just getting back into things, seeing how this leg press feels. I haven't really used it very much. I just moved to this gym recently, so just getting a feel for things. But yeah, those seat belts, if you are interested, I think it's worthwhile. Definitely if you're a personal trainer, you should have them. Just because it's a great thing to use with some clients. For example, if you're on the leg extension, which I'll show you in a minute, and you know, you don't have to get them to work so hard to hold themselves down and learn quite as much if you can add that restraint from the get-go. It'll make more sense on the leg extension, I think. But basically, you can get them on Amazon. Just look up overweight seatbelt add-on, because essentially people use them if they're overweight or obese, and their waist girth is too big for, with some circumference, I should say, is too big for the standard airplane seatbelt. So they've got these little add-ons. I buy 2 of them, put them around, and they make for a nice handy seatbelt. So yeah, essentially the effect that you're getting here is illustrated more so on the leg extension. So not, as you'll see, right, when I extend my knee, I'm obviously applying a force up against the resistance, okay? But at the same time, I have to really work to pull myself down, because otherwise that torque, that force that I'm producing wants me to fly forward. So because of the way I'm pushing, I want to fly forward, so that's why I have to pull myself down. And you'll often see or feel your hips like rising up quite a lot when you're doing exercises like this, and you have to fight to keep them down. And some people use that as a means of just jerking the weight up, which is just kind of inefficient in terms of applying a training stimulus. So what I do instead is use the seat belt, and what that does is just takes care more or less of locking my hips down. Now it didn't have quite the effect in this case. Wasn't tight enough, just not quite tight enough. But it's doing like 90% of its job in this case. Like, I'm not pulling down very hard, and yeah, it's just a great investment. It can be used on other exercises as well, and I'll show you that at some point. But yeah, this was a really, really long set. This set in total was a 20 rep set, but it took 2 minutes. So it's like kind of 6 seconds per rep, controlling the way up, a little bit of a pause, controlling the way down, a little bit of a pause, and just a really long set overall. So that was painful to say the least. But yeah, felt good. This leg extension is okay. But there are certainly like better leg extensions that you could be using. You know, I kind of like having a seat that I can just sit on. This one doesn't have that option, but obviously you also have, and when I say seat, I mean like pad that you can sit back against. It just allows you to kind of hold your position a little bit better, because it can be easy to use kind of trunk motion here, or hip motion even, to move back and forth and make it a bit easier. What you'll see me doing in this case is leaning back at the end just for a bit of an isometric. Not something I necessarily recommend. I was just doing it in this case because as you lean back, you are essentially extending your hips, which lengthens that rectus femoris portion of your quads, and it's just a way to finish the set in that case. My goal on this day was to, you know, just do a set or 2 on each exercise, so I kind of pushed a bit harder on that leg extension versus other exercises. So there you go. It is what it is. What you'll have seen me here on the Romanian deadlift or stiff leg deadlift, what you'll have seen me do was look at the weights either side, thinking that they felt a bit odd. And now that's when I figured out that I was actually gripping the bar asymmetrically. So the weights were on just fine. It was just my fault with where I was actually gripping the bar.
So yeah, this is 125 kilos, I think. Yeah, 125 kilos, and just doing like pretty like smooth work, down nice and controlled, pausing at the bottom, and controlling on the way up. Again, this is by no means like my best weights or anything. It's just kind of getting into the swing of things after being away and not doing this exercise for maybe 3 weeks. Well, I did do it once on holidays, actually. That's a lie. But yeah, this was good, honest work. 125 for I think 8 in total if you if you don't count it as two different sets, because I took that 10-second break. But yeah, people often ask me, why are you wearing your squat shoes when you're doing RDLs? Do you recommend it? I actually don't recommend it. It's not advantageous. In this case, it's just a case of comfort. I live in front of this gym, so I walk to the gym in those shoes, and it's just convenient. This, I wasn't sure whether to put this clip in or not, because clearly it's a crappy video, same as the leg extension video. They were filmed in portrait, but yeah, this was just finishing off with a lying leg curl. Nothing to write home about. Again, simple work. There you go, is what it is. That's a lower body session. That was that session. I'll show you more of my training, and we'll talk more about training theory in future. The purpose of this vlog was really kind of just to get back into the swing of things, you know, get back to putting out some content on YouTube, and you know, just developing that habit again, and seeing what you guys kind of want to see, what you want to hear more about. You know, I mentioned a lot of things there in passing. You might be interested in some of them, but let me know what you want of the channel, and lots of more videos will be coming your way.